When you do something that makes you feel ashamed and scared of getting caught, yes, you might get away with it, but the real problem is the way it grinds you down. Your self-esteem, your sense of integrity, your ability to walk through your life standing tall, looking people in the eye, feeling confident when you speak up for yourself in the event that you've been wronged. This is huge for a lot of people with childhood PTSD. You can lose all that good stuff. Maybe you learned growing up to use dodgy behavior around laws and money, and you thought the world wasn't fair or owed you a break. That's common. Or maybe serious hardship pressed you to do whatever you thought you had to do to get by, earning money illegally or avoiding responsibility for debts. But either way, if your time has come to recover from all the trauma that brought you to this point, a really good thing to do is to face these problems and to get to work solving them. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Kate, and she writes, "Dear Anna, I want to ask you a few questions out of sheer terror and desperation for my situation. You're so far the only complex trauma expert mentioning one area of developmental trauma fallout, and that is illegal activity surrounding taxes and other financial issues. I have done these illegal things with finances out of a deep survival instinct surrounding lifelong poverty, plus financial illiteracy, possibly dyscalculia, and impulsivity." Okay, I'm circling with my pencil. And these are things I'll come back to. I'm going to read your letter all the way through. I'll come back to talk about things I circled. Okay. This has gone on for years. I live on government benefits and in government housing, and I think I may have committed fraud. My truest self knows I did not intend harm to anybody or programs or institutions. My life is small and quiet. My money goes to basics now. I've curbed a ton of impulsive spending habits. Good. And my truest self knows also I did these things because I truly didn't understand the repercussions. Definitely operating out of dissociation, extreme executive dysfunction, undiagnosed and many diagnosed difficulties. Okay. My questions for you surrounding this, knowing you're not a legal expert or lawyer, and I am not, in your work, have you seen people stop this behavior and dig themselves out of any resulting legal and financial mess? I have great news for you. Do you recommend going to legal aid for advice? I've not yet been warned or charged, but could be at any moment for years past and for this year too. Truly, I've been in such a state of freeze about the situation for too many years to even know where to begin. I go to a low-income clinic for therapy, but just when I gather the courage to begin, it seems, my therapist at the time leaves the clinic, and I have to begin the long dance toward trust all over again. I don't know where to turn. I apologize for coming to you with things that may be outside your realm of knowledge, but you mentioned tax evasion and other legal troubles for those with CPTSD, and that helped me get the courage to ask. For that alone, I'm grateful. Feeling totally alone and helpless in this horrible mess has been one long nightmare. At least I know I'm not the only one who made these same mistakes. In much of my therapy, I work on feeling better about myself, my thoughts, and emotions, which is helpful, but if we're doing bad things at the level of possible prosecution and don't know how to stop, how can we be expected to feel we're decent people? That's something I don't see addressed enough. Along with any thoughts you may have, if there are any trauma survivors you know who have gone through something similar, who may be able to provide guidance and support, please let me know. I don't know anybody who has had anything remotely like this in their lives, and that makes everything 1,000 times worse. Many thanks again for putting your work, expertise, and compassion out into the universe for survivors like me to discover and absorb, especially mentioning the parts other experts don't seem to tackle. Thank you, Kate. That is very kind of you, and I didn't know I was the only one talking about it. It seems self-evident to me. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, you are so not alone with this. Lots and lots of people, traumatized and otherwise, do this, and I totally hear you. With the background of poverty and trauma, you don't learn this stuff at home. There's often a lot of financial desperation. A lot of people would say that it was financial desperation that pushed them to do the worst things they've ever done. For me, I would say the number one thing is loneliness pushed me to do that. But I have my own thing. I'm going to refer everybody at the end of this to a video I have about like a list of ways that the bad stuff sometimes comes out of us. And it's a list that could help anybody who watches it accept themselves. So I'll do that at the end of the video, but stay with me here. I want to talk about what you said. I'm just really with you on this. There totally is help available. So you said that you feel terrible about yourself. So you say you have lifelong poverty, financial illiteracy, possible dyscalculia, and impulsivity. You sound like you're very, very in touch with what's going on with you and why you struggle. So good for you. You know, it's actually quite an accomplishment to be able to go to publicly assisted therapy. Like that's hard to get. And to be able to put that together, you've obviously taken some big steps to take care of yourself. So that's good. That's step one. You talk a lot about your truest self. And I don't know, maybe that's a concept that's important to you. I don't know, you might just want to say I. You are your truest self. You are your truest self. You're true. And as human beings, we all are capable of doing good things. We all are capable of doing bad things. And when we look around and judge other people, it's usually because we've lost sight that in the other person's shoes, in their situation, with their upbringing, with their DNA, we really don't know that we would be some superior person, no matter how much people think that. That is the definition of arrogance, all right? So nobody gets to judge you for this. Everybody has problems sometime. And what's interesting, I work with a lot of people. I work with people with no money. I work with people with a lot of money. And I would say they all have about the equal amount of trouble with money. You know, I was a welfare kid, and so I know what it is to not have enough money to be safe or okay. That's a thing. That's a thing. But once your basic needs are met, it's just been my observation that we get very troubled about money. So I think that you might be feeling guilty because some of what you've been doing was maybe you had a choice. Maybe you feel that you had a choice and you chose to keep doing the thing. Yeah, well, me and you know, I've done all my things. I had a tax debt once, and of all the problems that I have, of all the shady behaviors that I've had, for me personally, it hasn't been about money. Like, I've been pretty square about that. But I had a tax debt once, and I just want to tell you what happened. I don't know what country you're in. I'm in the U.S., and here it's the Internal Revenue Service. But I had an accountant and got my taxes done and sent them in, and this was a very tough financial time for me when I was a single mom. And I all of a sudden got this bill back like months later for $7,000 or something. $7,000 I totally didn't have. I didn't have enough for my needs already. This money came in, I just about had a heart attack. You know what I did? I called the IRS, and to my surprise, they were really nice. They were really nice. That was my experience. I've had to call them a few times with problems or questions. And sometimes you have to wait a long time to talk to them. Although it just sort of depends on the year, what's happening with funding or whatever. But sometimes it's a long hold time. Sometimes you get right in. And especially when you're small potatoes like you and me, they tend to do a very wonderful job of just trying to help you sort something out. You do owe the money. And you can talk to them and ask them to help you set up a plan for how you can do it. And you can tell them your situation honestly, where you are. You're on public assistance. And whatever is available for people, they may help you do that. I do feel that for small potatoes people, like maybe they want to go after high stakes people who evade taxes. But I think for people who are just scraping by, they're more interested in helping you just set everything straight than they are in trying to prosecute you or anything. But the one exception to that would be is if you hide. Running and hiding is, it's causing you so much stress and low self-esteem. For that reason alone, it's so important. So I had a lot of dodgy behavior in my past, and what was really bothering me about it, well, I just felt so bad. I always talk about that, like being able to walk with your head up. There were a lot of things I owed apologies for. I owed some money that I hadn't paid back. And when I started learning my daily practice, I then got this natural desire, as you're having right now. I wanted to set it right. And I went and I paid my debts. I talked to people. I apologized for things. I refrained from apologizing even where I had done wrong if I thought that that might hurt people, because the person who mentored me was a sober alcoholic woman. I wasn't an alcoholic, but she taught me how alcoholics do it. Like, alcoholics have got to clear this stuff up. They've learned in AA because the guilt and the shame and the hiding will drive them to drink again. Like their one chance at happiness and thriving is to clear all this stuff up. So I remember when I first heard the technique that they use of making amends, I was just like, oh no, this sounds awful. Or I wanted to run out and apologize to ex-boyfriends. So it's just an excuse to make contact. But I was told, don't do that, because actually if they're in a relationship, you could hurt them and their new partner by just showing up. Hadn't heard that before either. I loved learning from the people in 12-step programs, because here was the thing I didn't get either. You said your therapist isn't talking about it. Mine wasn't either. I was doing some egregious stuff. I've talked about it in other videos, and it was hanging out with a woman who was a 12-step person. She was just like, clear it up. You're going to feel better. You need to stand tall. You need to get rid of all this shame. And I had been of this school of thought that like shame was just a thing that other people did to me and I didn't deserve it. And then, I was just kind of gradually came around. I'm like, oh no, I feel ashamed because of like some stuff I did that I don't feel good about. So it's good. It's just kind of like, it means your conscience is actually alive and well and speaking with you. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. You say you have illegal stuff. You mentioned taxes. If it's other things like, I don't know, embezzlement or theft, that could be serious. Here's what I recommend you do. The 12-step program, I haven't been, but I know really terrific people who have thrived there. It's called Debtors Anonymous, DA. And I think you can Google it and you can find meetings online or in your community. 12-step fellowships, they're free. I think you put $1 or $2 in the basket. You don't have to. That's just customary what they do. And that's a place where people get together to solve these problems and get support from each other, and they meet regularly. I've known people who did it, and they called them accountability groups. I think it's a beautiful model. So, I don't know, 4 or 5 people agree to get together periodically, and they all get together and they talk about what did they spend, where are they in paying down a debt. And for you, I would imagine you could tell people, I've got this problem, and people who have dealt with this problem, they will be there, and they'll go, I gotcha, this is what I did. I recommend doing it this way. Read this book, or go to this website, or I know this resource. You can get help from people who have been there. And I suspect, like, you think you don't know anybody who's had this, but they're in hiding right now. So lots of people have this. It's very common. And it's really noble and beautiful that your spirit is moving you to straighten it out. That's really good. I support you 100%. You will feel better. I do think that the world is going to accommodate you. If it is some serious crime like embezzlement and you need legal help, then yes, I would say go to legal aid. That is advice for an attorney. I don't know what the problem is, and I don't know what the solution is, but I know that facing the problem and getting help for it is a totally positive thing to do. It's time for you to clear this up. And the world tends to respond well to people who show up proactively to solve their problems. I think it's going to be better than you think. It's going to be a lot easier on you than all the shame and terror that you've been going through. Terror and desperation, you said. So I hope that helps you. If anybody's interested in this, debting and dishonest behavior around money is just one aspect of self-defeating behavior. Self-defeating behavior, we all have it. In complex PTSD, this is my radical philosophy that you don't get everywhere. I think it's about dysregulation, disconnection from people, and self-defeating behavior. It's those 3 things. Those are the 3 arenas of life where CPTSD plays out. They all get triggered. It goes round and round. If you can change one thing in that circle, you can start to change your CPTSD symptoms and change your life. So for you right now, the thing presenting to your consciousness is, I got to straighten out this tax thing and whatever else this may be. Go for it. Go for it. That would be taking on a self-defeating behavior. You're going to feel so good about yourself, and I think you're going to find it has a healing effect on other things, like your tendency to disconnect from people and not relate to them or feel like you're all alone. It's going to have good effects. So good on you for doing this. The video is all about self-defeating behaviors. It's right here for you, and I will see you very soon.